Top of the morning. So today we're going to talk about alcohol and kombucha a little bit. Now, I am not a physician and I am not a scientist. And so you need to work with your trusted scientists and doctors if you want to get to the bottom of this question for yourself in a way that you would like to do with experts. I am not one. What I can share is only my experience. And because I had one of my kombuchas was left, I had a few explode on me actually, but I left some outside because they weren't fermenting fast enough, and so and over time I started hearing them pop outside. So I found that some of them did turn not just bubbly, but a little alcoholic. So today I was reminded of that because I had a little bit of one that I was working on, and it was not alcoholic, but it was so good that I kind of wanted more. And when I opened this one, I remember this is one of the ones that had been outside kind of in the heat. It's been inside for a while now, but I think there's a little bit of alcohol in here. I don't have to be anywhere today. It's very rare. And I'm feeling particularly well today, and so I wouldn't even drink this if I wasn't. Um, but I do feel like, if I had to estimate a percentage based on the flavor, I did used to be a chef, and I worked in wine and spirits a fair amount, and so if I had to estimate, I would say that this is between 1 and 2%. I think it's probably at least a 1. It's probably not more than a 2%, but because I don't have to be anywhere at all, and because my body is feeling pretty resilient today, and has been kind of for the past week, which is very unusual for me, I'm going to give it a try. But it needs to be said that first off, alcohol is a neurotoxin. Like, that's why we call it, being intoxicated, because it's a neurotoxin. So that's a real thing. It's not just a toxin for people who have trouble stopping drinking. It's a toxin for everybody. I have neurological issues that I didn't realize were exacerbated by having alcohol in my diet. And so when I had an injury that I just couldn't get healed up, and I kept getting worse and I kept getting worse. And frankly, because I can't be on any kind of lab made medication, but alcohol helped to ease pain when the pain was very, very severe. I didn't realize for about a year and a half that I really needed to take alcohol completely out of my diet at that point, that my neurology was just too shot at that point in time to get away with having alcohol in my diet anymore. I've never, been a drinker that you would characterize as any kind of binge drinking or any kind of non-recreational level drinking, but nonetheless, it's a toxin, and it just is true. So and that was hard for me to do, actually, because even not being a person who had alcohol in my diet all the time, I'm a person who lives alone. There are many days where I'm wondering, like, sort of what to do with myself, and alcohol is one way. But when you are by yourself, to just kind of shift, the brain around a little bit. You don't have kids pulling on you and people distracting you from one thing to get to the next thing. And so, as a single person, it was a hard thing to take that out of my diet, just like it's hard to take anything out of your diet, that you're used to having. So, so with all of that said, I've been researching a lot around what you can expect your kombucha to be. There's certainly hard kombucha that people are making now, but the fact is that kombucha always can have a residual teeny tiny amount of alcohol. It is a ferment, but it can also have a vinegar to it, which is what most of mine has, because it gets so old because I can't seem to time mine right. So so I just use all of it as starter. But if you are concerned about it, certainly a lot of people like for their kids to have kombucha. Just like, be smart, just taste it, and if it feels like you're inhaling just a tiny bit of alcohol when you have it, then you'll probably know it has alcohol in it. And even if you are a teetotaler and you've never had alcohol in your life, you know what isopropyl alcohol smells like, and you know kind of what it feels like to breathe that in, and it kind of hits the roof of your mouth a little bit. And that's what I would encourage you to do. So like when I taste this, and you can tell like this is very thick. I'm really proud of this kombucha, actually. I'll show it to you. It has lots of fun stuff in it. This is from the muscadine grapes that grow wild here that are just trash to eat, to be really honest. They're not like the ones up in the northern part of the state that are sweet and big and real juicy. These are juicy, but there's nothing about them that is sweet. They're not even kind. But they ferment great. And I have found, I do feel like that all the kombucha that I've made out of those muscadine grapes has had some kind of, it's a yeastier situation in there, and it definitely has gotten alcoholized. So you can see these are most of these are seeds. And this is the body of it, but you can see it's quite thick. It doesn't taste like beer at all. I mean, this is a grape, base. It does taste nicely winey, but again, not very alcoholic. But I have seen, and I've posted in my private, like local kombucha Facebook group, that depending on which bottle you get at the store, it really varies a lot what a breathalyzer test will show on you just drinking a kombucha. And I don't mean like kombucha like mine that like legit probably has alcohol in it at this point, but like one that you get at the store. So I've seen non-hard kombuchas, like regular non-alcohol kombuchas, spike a breathalyzer up to like 0.12, which should mean that you really shouldn't be on the road and that you're kind of dumb at that point. And but then 20 minutes later, it's back at 0. And then I've seen a video where someone was like literally live drinking hard kombucha on the video and had to drink like 4 of them to get any breathalyzer thing going at all. So, and then 20 minutes later, it also didn't show anything. So it's anybody's guess. And that's where I think it's a better idea to pay attention to your mind. I am going to stop to make sure that I'm not drinking kombucha on the road going forward. Not because I've had any kind of sense of less faculty when I'm driving. And I do occasionally, I don't drink kombucha and drive a lot because I really like my kombucha cold and I just have no use for it if it's not cold, and it's usually not cold in the car very long. But there are times when, because my grocery store is like 45 minutes away, and then I go there and I spend like 2.5 hours once a month and like buy everything in the store and then come back home, it's a long day. And it's frequent that I don't take enough food with me to like get me through that. And so I sometimes will get a kombucha and sort of coast on the little bit of caffeine it's got in it on the way home and a little bit of sugar. So going forward, I won't do that now that I've seen how these breathalyze out, because even if I'm not impaired, if I were to get pulled over and I did happen to get breathalyzed, I could be in real trouble. And like, it's really no joke to have a DUI. But also, if there's a possibility that I might be impaired, even for 3 minutes, that's not responsible to people on the road. So it's just something to keep in mind. I will say, if I've seen in a few sort of moms who booch types of communities that some people do monitor their kombucha homemades for alcohol content. I sure don't know where they do it or how they do it, because when I'm looking up ways to monitor mine, because I am curious about the alcohol content to see, partly just to learn about my body and like what works best for my body. I'm curious where they're getting the access to do that, because all I can find on YouTube, which seems to be the best place for me to look, is, engineers getting on there talking about $10,000 machines, $165 machines. I'll spend $165 if it's really, really important. But even the $165 machine is like it's not non-engineer user friendly. So, so if anybody has any ideas and wants to share, it's a good conversation to have. And it's important that we have these conversations openly, because there's nothing wrong with having the conversation. And we want to be honest too, in a society that is super pro alcohol and acts like it's like not a drug and not a neurotoxin, just like we act like caffeine's not a neurotoxin and not a drug and not addictive. That we want to just be honest about it. Like if you're gonna consume that and have that in your body, know what it's gonna do to you before it does it. And as a person who wished that I had known that alcohol was a neurotoxin when I was 17, now that I have lots of neurotoxic issues in my body, and I was smart enough at 17 to like take information and do something with it. And if I had known really what alcohol was, I just would have been like, keep that away from me, because I knew that my body was frail even then, and I wouldn't have been drinking. But now I have the impacts of a frail body plus a recreational drinker for many years, and it is what it is. So any other thoughts, feel free to share, but just wanted to share that. And I'm really proud of this. I feel really good about this, and it's just sort of nice occasionally for me. I'm going to drink this today and I'm going to see how I feel. I'm going to see if I feel okay for the next 18 hours, 36 hours, week and a half, and see, or see if the alcohol is significant and important for me to consider. I will say finally that when I have had organic spirits, they don't process in the body the same way. They're too neurotoxic to me. They're still alcohol. They're too neurotoxic to me to have in my diet at this point. But the reason I'm also experimenting with this is because when I've had raw wine that's unpasteurized, unheated, unfiltered wine, I have had a very different reaction still. And because that's so hard to get, because raw wine is so hard to get, I haven't had it enough times to know if I could have it now. I mean, the last time I had it was like 10 years ago. And that was when I was drinking, recreationally, regularly, when my body could handle that better. So since it can't handle that now, I don't know if I can have raw wine or not. So this is my little experiment. And in my area, there's not enough grapes growing anyway to make wine particularly. And I'm not trying to like keep alcohol in the house particularly either. I just want to see if this works because it's so good for my gut. It really does help my gut. So hope that's helpful. Thanks. Bye.